You're watching Life Tomorrow. I'm Hunter Mulford, and I'm joined by Devon Grodkiewicz, who is the CEO and co-founder of Wizio. So thank you so much for being here today.
Hunter, thank you for having me here today. Really appreciate it.
We are super excited, and he's come all the way from Boston. So for those who don't know, let's start out with what is Wizio? What services do you provide?
So Wizio is on-demand virtual reality. We actually got started 3 years ago in a much different space, and after hundreds of customer interviews and learning more about the real estate market, we realized virtual reality was the way to go. It's actually the second market that's expected to be impacted by VR after gaming. By 2025, you're looking at 2.6 billion in annual sales, but really the big challenges of VR are twofold: content capture and content delivery.
Absolutely. And everyone sort of defines VR in slightly different ways. How would you define virtual reality?
So really it's the mapping of physical space. So that's what you're sort of looking at. And this can be done through panoramic shots, or if you can get that depth measurement to create 3D models, that's another way of doing it.
And you create, to my understanding, virtual reality property tours.
Yes.
What are some of the features of those?
So in the case of a property tour, you're going to want to be able to see many people are renting sight unseen from, say, China, or they're looking at properties to buy from other countries, and
right.
By being able to put on a VR headset, you can sort of navigate and walk around these properties as if you were there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what do you think are some of the benefits of using this technology as opposed to actually traveling to the space in person?
Well, for the real estate community, they spend a lot of time qualifying leads, taking them on tours that can sometimes be unnecessary. So by having the opportunity to really vet their clients and give them this experience so that they're sort of having the zero moment of decision. By the time they're arriving at these properties, they know that they want to purchase that property.
Awesome. And sorry about that. Do you see any disadvantages to this?
It definitely could make real estate agents a little bit more efficient. So as a result of that efficiency, you could see less need for agents. There's a lot of licensed agents in the US market. You're talking about almost 1 million people have real estate agent licenses. And right now, a good rental agent in Boston might do 50,000 in deals a month.
Okay.
In the peak of the season. They could do easily a $250,000 if they could show their clients sight unseen, because it eliminates that need to cart them around the city to find their next property.
Oh yes. And what industries do you currently work with?
So right now we are working with the hospitality industry. So we are filming hotels, and then also our primary market is real estate. So looking at rentals and sale properties, and mostly in Boston. So that's our beachhead market. We are looking to expand in New York, though, later this year. So, yeah.
And do you see yourself expanding to additional industries? And if so, what are you envisioning there?
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity here. If there's a developer that's renovating a space, you could create a 3D model of the existing property and convert that to, say, a CAD file or something that developer could use to help design the new renovation. Rather than having someone come in and take measurements, all you need to do is take a couple photos to convert into that model that you could use. It's a much faster process.
And so you sort of started talking about the process. Could you explain how you actually created and how long it takes to do so?
Yeah, so we have built up a photography infrastructure. So we train photographers on how to use 360 equipment, and then they upload that content to our servers, and our servers have a lot of scripts and fancy ways of processing those images, improving the quality on them, and that's when we sort of take that content and package it into the virtual tour that our end users and customers end up seeing.
Absolutely. And I know that you have filmed at some pretty cool places.
Yeah.
What would you say have been the most unique out of the bunch?
So we were given a VIP pass to the Boston Tall Ships event, which is an annual event in Boston where hundreds of sailing vessels come into the city. And we did a couple naval tours, and from a global perspective, the global community was amazed by it. We were getting hits from Peru, we were getting
Oh my
hits from
gosh.
New Zealand. Like all of these people were able to see these ships in real time. So that was very interesting. And then we recently did a tour for the Massachusetts State House, which is a phenomenal building. And actually, you'll be able to see that later. I'm going to pass that tour along to you so you can post it.
Absolutely, so super cool. Check out later. You'll see more of the amazing places that Wizio has checked out. And I also want to point out before I forget, we are filming this in 360 using Wizio's technology, so that will also be on our Facebook page later on today. But I want to talk about a little bit more because at one point you mentioned earlier that you transitioned from using a system that was VR headset compatible and you sort of moved away from that. Why is that? And do you see yourself reverting back?
So yeah, right now the VR headsets have only become market adopted in the gaming industry. So it's going to take a little bit of time before the end users, consumers like you and I, are using this to look at other spaces. Generally speaking, most people are going to interact with VR on a mobile experience. So that's sort of our focus for now.
And do you see it moving back to, like in the future, do you see people actually buying the VR headsets and not just using for gaming purposes? And
I think there's definitely an opportunity there.
Right.
I'm not sure how long it'll take for market adoption. And then thinking about all these innovations that are happening with the new Apple iPhone and augmented reality, that's changing the way that you can view these virtual spaces. You might be able to hold up your phone and look at a virtual model of another property.
Right.
Which, at that point, do you really need a headset?
That's true. So it's really progressing. How else do you see VR progressing?
I mentioned the developer space. I think there's a lot of opportunity for the entertainment industry, especially.
Oh, cool.
Yep. It's certainly a challenge. You'll get an opportunity to see the behind the scenes here, which can be challenging to hide you get to see behind the curtain, which is difficult.
Absolutely. And I want to note that you shoot in really high resolution of 8K. How do you think that impacts the customer's experience?
So that's been a challenge, since a lot of the real estate consumers are generally viewing this content when they're starting their buyer's journey. They're usually starting it on a mobile device.
Right.
And as a result of that, if you have a really high resolution image, it's going to take longer to process and load on your phones. And so as a result of that, we have had to tailor back the content we're creating for the real estate industry. But the advancements in this technology, we just got an announcement from one of our camera manufacturers that they're going to be updating the technology so that it can support 15K footage, which is absurd. Like, at some point, you have to wonder, like, do we need this high of a resolution?
It's becoming insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I wanted to bring this up because recently there's been a lot of discussion about potential dangers of artificial intelligence. What do you think there are, if any, future dangers of VR if we're immersing ourselves in it at a higher level in the future?
I wouldn't be too worried about the dangers of artificial intelligence so much as how they could help us in these scenarios.
Okay.
So, there's an opportunity here where right now we as consumers, maybe we're looking for a sale property and we want to know if the property has a fireplace or, whatever amenities it might be. AI have the ability to process that metadata much faster than any human can. Me as a real estate agent, I would have to go through each listing to identify those characteristics, whereas if you could have an AI do that for you, it's much faster.
Absolutely. So what's next for Wizio?
Well, we would love to expand to the New York market, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago. These are all areas that we're looking at.
Exciting.
And we're going to be continuing to grow our contractor infrastructure to support all these markets and sort of bring VR to consumers.
Great. And how do people find out more about you and Wizio?
You can visit wizio.co, wizio.co, and take a look at some of our demos there.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Devon. I've loved having you here. And again, I'm Hunter Mulford. You're watching Life Tomorrow. And stay tuned because next week I'll be meeting with some pretty cool companies that are changing kids' outlook on tech and science and telling them that tech can be cool. So thank you so much again. And be sure to check out Wizio at wizio.co.